Coming to you with a podcast on Renaissance era and how it shaped music. Renaissance music is both vocal and instrumental music that was written and performed in Europe in the Renaissance era. Music historians have said to start the era 1400 with the end of medieval era and close it around 1600 with the beginning of Baroque period. Music was increasingly freed from medieval constraints and more variety was permitted in range, rhythm, harmony, form, and notation. The Renaissance followed what we now call the Middle Ages and was for musicians an era of discovery, innovation, exploration, and a rebirth. This music spanned from around the 1400s to 1600s. Most music written during this period is intended to be sung either in a large choral piece or in church or as songs, but non-vocal music flourished as well. Some of the better known composers of this era were Lionel Power, John Giustaple, Oswald von Wolkenstein, and Guillaume Dufay. The Burgundian court was also really influential during this period, and it attracted composers and musicians from all over Europe. The most important composer of this era was Guillaume Dufay, whose musical offerings included masses from church and chapel services. Many of his large musical structures were based on existing Gregorian chant. With his command of large music scales, as well as his attention to secular music, he set the stage for the next generation of Renaissance composers. Many of Dufay's compositions were simple settings of chants, and most of his secular songs followed the form fixes which dominated secular European music of the 14th and 15th centuries. Dufay was one of the last composers to make use of the last medieval techniques such as isorhythm. Renaissance music was based off modes, had a richer texture with four more melodic parts and lines known as style called polyphony. Polyphony is one of the defining features of the Renaissance music. Blending melodic songs, adding harmony to music places the greatest concern of a smooth flow of music and its progression of chords. Now we talk about the instrument family and the most important in each category. Brass instruments in the Renaissance were traditionally played by professionals. Some popular brass instruments were the slide trumpet, the cornet, and trumpet. As a family of strings were used in many circumstances, both sacred and secular. The most popular string instruments at this time was a viol, a lyre, and a lute. Some Renaissance percussion instruments including the triangle, the Jew's harp, the tambourine, bells, a Roman part, and various kinds of drums. Some popular woodwind instruments included shawm, reed pipe, hornpipe, and a bagpipe. Music was an essential part of civic, religious, and courtly life in the Renaissance era. The most important music of the early Renaissance was composed for use by the church. They also composed many masses and motets. In the early 1470s, music started to be printed by using a printing press. Music printed had a major effect on how music spread, and a printed piece of music could reach a larger region of audience than any handwritten or hand-copied manuscript. It did so far more cheap. This is the first display of not only what we call sheet music, but we commonly call lyric sheets. The change from the Barcoot music style happened around 1600. This was a time when opera music was invented, which required a new style of composing. The composer Monteverdi wrote in Renaissance style until the 1600s, when he changed to the Barcoot style. I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as I did creating it. This is only a portion of the world known as the Renaissance era. There is much more to explore, and I hope that you take the time to explore it. Again, I am Tyshawn with the National Public Radio. I hope to see you back for my next podcast where we explore all things opera.